Hi, Shelby Jo Long here with the Genius Entrepreneur Podcast. And I have the opportunity to talk to some amazing entrepreneurs that have developed a business around their passion and their genius. And they have the ability to live that every single day. So it's just always an enlightening conversation. Today, we have the opportunity to learn from a fellow genius that works with genius entrepreneurs herself. Name's Pauline Victoria. I'm excited to learn a little bit more about her story and also what inspired her to get into the line of work that she does. So, Pauline, welcome to the podcast today.
Hi, thank you, Shelby, for having me.
Great. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the business that you run?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So my name is Pauline Victoria. I live in Hawaii on the Big Island, living my best life. Um,
Yeah, no kidding.
yes,
Living
man,
it, living your job of passion or your career of passion on a place that's just gorgeous. So,
yes. Yes, I'm very, very blessed. And when I say that, I don't know if this is video or for people who are just listening to it as
it's
well.
both. It's both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I actually was born without arms and legs and feel very blessed to live this beautiful life. My I even count being born without arms and legs a blessing. And I'm not saying it's not hard, but it has given me a unique perspective in life that I get to now share with the world. I started One Leg Up Productions as a media company to support entrepreneurs to be able to show up in their business, show up in their life so they can profit in their purpose. And oftentimes I say to people, as much as you're looking for your purpose is also looking for you. And and when you find it, that's one step. But the harder step is saying yes to it. And as a media company that puts out my podcast and videos, and I know the value of showing up and how you show up makes a difference. I wanted to help other entrepreneurs be able to also be able to be visible for themselves and for the people that they want to impact. And so as I move through One Leg Up Productions and as it evolves from me producing content to now helping others produce content so that others can know about them. That it's been a beautiful journey to be able to see the transformation that happens in my clients when they actually say yes to their purpose and then step into their greatness.
That's amazing. Uh, Again, it's so inspired to hear your story. I want to dig a little bit deeper into it because this probably didn't just happen overnight. What inspired you to develop a business around people finding their purpose? That's something, I'm in my late 40s and I feel like I reinvent or redefine what my purpose is pretty frequently. Well, not pretty frequently, but you think you're supposed to do something and then a couple of years ago, I went cold turkey and decided to completely switch my career. And that was a really challenging transition. However, I feel that that's something that shifts and changes. So let's hear about what inspired you to do this. I imagine there was some sort of light bulb moment, or there was something that inspired you to dig a little bit deeper into your purpose here.
Yeah, and I think, I feel like we are given a purpose in this life on this 3D planet, but how it's expressed can look differently, right? So even though we may reinvent ourselves or shift or pivot our careers, a lot of people had a pivot in 2020 when COVID hit. Yes, we're constantly doing that and evolving as we grow. But there's a thread that usually that comes through our life that can be seen if we pull on it. And if you pull on it, it really does lead to your origin story.
Mhm.
And when I was born, it was a very unexpected event for both my parents and the doctors. And in 1975, yes, I am aging myself. Also late 40s. High five, Shelby.
Well, you never guessed that you were born in the 75. So,
Yeah. But where it was very typical for parents to give up their children who are disabled into institutions. And even though my parents were very much aware that they had no expertise, no knowledge, no, equipment or tools or resources to be able to raise a child with such severe disabilities, they believed they had love for me. And I remember my mom telling me that when they finally handed her to me to her, she looked down and looked in my eyes and she realized that I mattered, that I had a heart and soul, just like everybody else. And when we move through life, when your why is big enough, you don't have to know the how. My parents didn't know how they were going to raise me, the intricacies and the details of it, but they knew why. And that why was because I mattered, no matter what package I came in. And so um, that that's the beginning of my story. And the same faith and love that my parents poured out on me, it became part of who I am. And they nurtured me enough, but they also gave me tough love to be able to discover what I was capable of. But by tough love, I mean they didn't just step in and do everything for me. They gave me space to get angry and frustrated and do things messy. But what that did is it got me comfortable with being uncomfortable, with being uncertain about how I'm going to do things. And so that's something they instilled in me, but then I started applying that to myself in my own life. And obviously, without arms and legs, you can imagine the amount of people's attention I get. And so being stared at, being preyed upon, prayed with an AY, like, let me pray
yeah.
for you and may God heal you. And, I have my own opinion on that. But or people crying over me, or people um almost like worshiping, like, oh my gosh, you've changed my life, you're such an inspiration. So I have had all sorts of reactions to me because I am in this body. And because I get the attention I get, I knew that I could use that for good, you know, and not in a way that is voyeuristic. I actually, about a decade ago, created a campaign called Ask Pauline, like ask me anything type things. That wasn't a thing back then, but I guess that's what I was doing. I was conversations with Pauline, ask me a question and I'll teach you and I'll share with you, because most people want to know out of curiosity, how do I eat? How do I type? How do I drive my wheelchair? How? But I figured, while I have your attention, I'm going to teach you something.
Yeah.
Right. So, um, the reality of it is people are always looking at us. People are always judging us. They're always making opinions about us. But because how I showed up in life, how I showed up, whether it would be in the grocery store or on stage or in a video like this, there was something that people could see in me that they felt was not, quote unquote, normal. Right. Like it was just like, I was smiling, I'm joyful, and I'm just living my life. And in their minds, it's like, how do you do that? And so just all of the culmination of all the things that I've had to deal with in my life helped me see that I could leverage what the attention I got in order to help people. And so, but I had to show up, right? I could have
Right.
easily said, oh, I don't want to go to that party, or I don't want to go outside, especially now. Oh my gosh, the world, we don't even really have to interact with people anymore. Just bring me
Right.
groceries,
You do it right here.
right? Bring me my
Yeah.
groceries, DoorDash my food, just bring all the stuff to me in the house, and I don't have to interact with the world at all. And so if if I wanted to do that, it is very, very possible, especially in today's world.
Right.
But there's a sense we lose something when that happens. And I know that when I am out in the world, like I said, whether it be grocery shopping or at a park or at the beach, I'm making a difference. And so, and we all have the ability to do that. And so I really want to help other entrepreneurs who have something to say. They feel they have a message they want to impart on the world in a way that makes a difference in people's lives. But you have to show up. And so sometimes we have that whisper or that nudge inside of us that says, do this, say this, like this is the message I want to give to the world that only you can give. But then we don't want to step up and say it, or so we don't want to show up on social media and put ourselves out there because it's really scary. And I believe that all of us can be this beautiful light. And I love that Marianne Williamson quote, like, who am I? Like, or who are you not to shine? And so, and when we give ourselves permission to shine, we also silently give other people permission to shine. And so hopefully I lead by example, first of all,
Yeah.
in helping my clients. But second, um, I- giving them the courage to be able to do the same. And, that's where I'm most comfortable is when I'm in a space where everyone is shining their light in the way they want to shine their light. And because a lot of times throughout my life, I had to dim my light because I was getting too much attention. And my sibling was like, she wanted the attention, but it was naturally coming to me. And so I'd have to always be dimming. So raising her up. So now I'm in a point where it's like, I want to raise other people's lights too, but not
Yeah.
at the expense of dimming mine.
That's the title of your book, I think. And I can't wait to get you on stage and hear more about your story. That's awesome to hear. I'm curious, like there's a million things in there to unpack. But I mean it's your story is of triumph, your story is of resilience, your story is of facing the odds and taking the challenges, and just like you talked about your parents and how your parents would set those boundaries with you and and challenge you from the beginning. I have very similar relationship with my parents, and it's just like I think that it's it's not super common,
Mm,
especially nowadays. And I think it's such an important piece because it's about challenge and fear and growth, and that's what it's all about. So we could talk forever about that. But the one thing that really stands out to me is your like desire to serve, and
mm,
you want to serve people, you want to lift people up, you want to help them get better. Like that's not something that's an innate quality of people. Do you have any idea? I imagine it came a little from your parents and and maybe your family, but maybe talk about where that want and desire to serve comes from. You want to serve others, you want to help others.
yeah, well, I think at the core of every human, we all do. So there's, I think it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Hierarchy of needs. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the last needs we need, or one of our last human needs that we have is the need to be significant, to have that significance, right? And we often find our significance in being generous. And so yes, like, and I think that's what kind of blows people away, right? They're like, oh my God, you have every excuse to be the taker. Like, just let everyone
Mhm.
do everything for you, and let just you can have everything for for free or low discount cost because your life is so hard for you. And here I am going, no, I can contribute just as much as anybody else. So it's also knowing your value. Like my parents, because of the way they raised me, they
100%.
taught me that I'm worthy of everything I desire in this life, but I'm also worthy of being able to give as well. Like I'm not less than in terms of contributing to the world.
You've
And
never been a victim, it doesn't sound like.
no, and I'm not saying I don't go through moments of that that pity party, right?
But we
And
all do, yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And as I've gotten older, I've been able to move through those periods faster. But yeah, those teenage years are hard on anybody, but you throw on, where our teenage years, we just want to blend in. And
Yeah.
there's no possible way I blend in. And so during those teenage years, that is hard for everybody. It was especially hard for me. And I did have thoughts of suicide. I did have thoughts of feeling bad about my situation. I got angry at God, and it was just like, I didn't understand. Like at 15 years old, you're like, why me? You
Mhm.
know? And I remember having I call it my surrender story, that conversation with God in church and being like, of all the billions of people in the world, you created me this way. Like you allowed this to happen. And so, I was taught like God doesn't make mistakes, but to a 15-year-old mind, you're like, he made a mistake. But it wasn't, it was something that I had to come to terms with. And that surrendering of that anger and I was really frustrated and angry and bitter with God in that time. And I I remember just sitting there and letting it pour out of me, and it coming, just receiving this message of it's your pain's not in vain. And when you get those cries and you're just like crying and then you're like feel exhausted and you just don't have anything more, like it's empty. You're just emptied out of all of this stuff. And that in that emptiness, that's when I heard that message, is that your pain's not in vain. It's going to be okay. Just hold on a little bit longer. And um that's really where I made my shift
Yeah,
from that like victim mentality to more empowered.
sure.
Yeah. And it's important for us to embrace those painful moments, because that is oftentimes where we get the power and to step into that purpose. Like, okay, like I may not understand why the whole picture yet, but I see there is purpose. And again, you don't always have to see the whole picture. And a lot of times in my life, like I just like, oh, I just want to learn to swim. Oh, I just want to learn to drive. And I just go for it blindly. It's like that young, innocent, like youth. I'm bold and I'm
Fearless.
stupid. And yeah, I'm like, was I stupid or fearless? I don't know.
Oh,
But
fear.
yeah. And so I would just go after what I wanted, and I didn't have to know how. So everything in my life, everything that I've achieved in my life has been done with blind faith. And there's that saying, I got to see it to believe it. And my whole life has been
So
built on
that's the real reason you stepped into entrepreneurship.
to believe it, or
Yeah, you're just like, I'm just gonna do this. Yeah.
yes,
Which
yes.
sometimes I think it just takes that, it's like building the parachute after you jump out of the plane, but it's sometimes you need that moment to be like, Why not? I want to do it."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that sounds like it's always been there. Talk to me about when you made the decision to start your own business and your media company and really get because it sounds like that. I mean, especially in your teenage years, it's hard to talk about that, hard to be, you're very otherized and all that. And tell me about the transition when you decided to really make that a part of your brand. Because that's really I mean, it's unique for one, but B, it's, in addition to, you have all this other stuff to deal with and entrepreneurship all at the same time. So it's a challenge. And now you inspire entrepreneurs. So tell me about that decision to start a business around that.
Um
Or was it just something you just did?
yeah, I feel like I
This
didn't
is
put that much thought into it. It's like, you know, I got into the speaking industry and in entrepreneurship because Les Brown came to me.
Yeah,
I did not go out seeking it. It was the farthest thing from my mind. I was actually trying to hide and run from my purpose for a very, very long time.
sure.
And it wasn't until, like, this quote by Oprah, I love it. And she says that life will whisper to you, but if you don't listen, it will scream. And Les Brown coming up to me and saying, I am listening to you and you have such a powerful voice. And I want to invite you down to my training in 4 days in LA and like do whatever it takes. You can bring whoever you want. You got to be there. Like that was my scream.
Yeah,
And so I said in the beginning, much as you are searching for your purpose is also seeking you. And it was that, like, the star is born, that explosion of like,
yeah,
oh God, I can no longer deny it, right? That if someone at the level of Les Brown sees it in me, then there must be something there. I can't run from it anymore.
right.
And so maybe if you're listening to this, you can relate to that. Like, I've been running so hard, but it won't let me go. And I remember listening to an interview with Wayne Dyer, and he said, when there's going to be times when an idea is ready to be born. And um, sometimes we don't have the idea has us. And it's just this um, surrendering to that, surrendering to saying yes to that and no longer running and no longer hiding, because it takes just as much energy to run and hide as it is to say yes. So we might as well say yes,
Might as
step
well say it.
into it, do it scary, do it messy, get frustrated, do it with uncertainty. Everything my parents taught me when I was 18 months old, when I wanted to sit up and allowing me to throw a temper tantrum and allowing me to be messy and angry. Like sometimes that's what it takes. Like it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Our greatness does not require us to be perfect. It just requires us to have a desire and to say yes to that desire.
So let's move to your work with entrepreneurs. So talk to me about how that influences your work with entrepreneurs. And I guess why choose entrepreneurs as a target audience?
Well, to be honest, at the beginning, my One Leg Up Productions was aimed toward people with disabilities.
Mhm.
But in 2021, I pivoted, right? Like my purpose was still there to make a difference, to help people grow and go after their dreams. But I pivoted to whom I was helping. And I love entrepreneurs because they are the visionaries. They are the ones who can see the world for what it could be, not for what it is only. And they're the ones who are saying, okay, I can do that. I can make a difference. And I'm willing to take some risks. I'm willing to be uncomfortable to do it. To an extent, and that's what I find. A lot of people will say they want to make a difference,
Mhm.
but they're waiting for permission or in an invitation from other people to do so. Right? So rather than me waiting for other people to invite me to their podcasts, I'm like, I'm just going to create my own podcast. Or rather than waiting for me to be invited to a stage, I'm just going to create my own stage. And so that's why I chose entrepreneurs. Um, and I feel like, one, my situation leaves little room for excuses.
Mhm.
So when people start giving me excuses as to why they can't, it's a little harder to convince me that they can't.
You're
And for
like,
them to believe they can't,
right.
right? So again, I'm using that to my benefit. Um, and it's not just because I show up without arms and legs, just because, oh, I don't have arms and legs, so therefore your excuses don't work on me. It's because I put in the work also.
Mhm.
to, to not make excuses in my life. So because I can also expect that from them, and they know what they're getting into. Like when they start becoming my client, it's not going to be, I'm going to tell you what you want to hear, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, or I'm going to challenge you with love, right? Everything's done with love and kindness. But I'm going to play the role that my parents played in my childhood,
Yeah.
which is that I'm going to nurture you, but I'm also going to give you tough love and create the space for you to do it messy.
And push you to understand that yourself. That's a big deal.
Yeah, yeah.
So how can people, how do you work with your clients?
So I have a program. I'm still firming it up, so I don't have the exact name, but it is a visibility mastermind. And part of it is to challenge the people coming into the program. So if you sign up for my program, this is not for people who just want to learn another thing. This is for people who want to take the next step with their action. There's no better commitment. There's nothing that shows your commitment more than your action. So I'm going to ask of you as part of my program to start showing up on video in social media. And my clients, I'm sure if you ask them, if they look back on their videos, if I look back on my videos when I first started, they are not the same as my videos now.
Nope.
We,
That's why you just
we
got to
are,
get started.
yes, they have to get started, but sometimes because people are waiting for permission, like, I'll give you that permission. Like, come on in. And I know with visibility, you're gonna hit the edges. And so if you hit the edges, we have the weekly mastermind where we meet together and we can talk about your challenges, and we can mastermind over, another thing is, well, I don't have enough content. Yes, you do. Like I'll give you over 100 prompts if you need to help create content. So there's a lot of things that come up with visibility in terms of personal growth and development. And the mastermind is there to support you with that, but the program is also going to challenge you. And then also I'll have guest experts give you anything around visibility that you need to know. If you want to know about podcasts and how to create a pitch, I'm going to have a guest expert for that. If you want to know how to get in touch with event coordinators, I'm going to get a guest on that. So it's really looking at visibility as a strategy for your business, because the reality is people cannot buy from you if they don't know who you are and what you're selling. So you have to demonstrate your gifts. And the best way to do that is by showing up on video, because that's what works these days.
Yeah, 100%. Showing up on video, showing up on stage, being in front of people. Content is king, but you got to
Mm-hmm.
connect with your audience for sure.
Yeah.
Well, great. Where can people find you if they're curious about your program and your story? I am excited about the book. I'm glad we discovered what the title's going to be. That's also a good title for your keynote that we're going to figure out and get when we get you on stage. So it's going to be
Thank
fun.
you. Thank you. Just DM me, or not DM me, email me directly at Pauline at One Leg Up Productions, and that's all spelled out. So Pauline at onelegupproductions.com. Yes, just email me directly and I will get in contact and we'll hop on a call.
And we can find you on Facebook and YouTube and all the things. Since the
Yeah,
person coaching visibility needs to have that visibility. So.
true, true.
Well, Pauline, towards the end of the interview, I always ask the genius entrepreneurs to give a piece of advice for someone that's maybe thinking about starting a business, but not quite ready yet. What would you tell them about starting a business, creating a business out of your expertise, living a life of your passion?
Hmm. Well, first, you're never going to be ready. So just do it. You
Just do
have
it.
the idea, just do it, and you'll be guided every step of the way. And there's people like Shelby, people like me that can help you on that journey. But probably the biggest advice I could give you if you want to make an impact with your business is to show up as yourself authentically, and vulnerably. And in that is true power.
Well, that was amazing to hear a little bit more about your story and to hear about your business and to hear how truly inspirational you are for entrepreneurs and people in general. You're such a motivation. So thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you, Shelby.
And again, I look forward to the book and the keynote and all those things. So it's going to be fun.
Thank you.
What is there anything coming up that you need to tell the audience about? What should we be looking out for?
Um, well, I look out for the program. If you're serious about wanting to make an impact, I would love to be able to be that guide for you on that journey. It's again, it's not always an easy, perfect, graceful journey. It can get messy, it can get frustrating, but with the right supports around you, you can move through that challenge
Yeah.
and find the rewards are great on the other side of that comfort zone. And
And there's a
I'm not,
speaking event coming up in Hawaii, right?
there is, I wasn't sure when this was going to air. So November 3rd, if you happen to be on or would like to come to the Big Island, am speaking with Marshawn Martin on the Big Island in Hilo specifically. I can actually give you the in details so if people do want to attend. It's a women's empowerment conference. Sorry, fellas, but it is a women's empowerment conference, and I'll be speaking there along with a lot of other amazing women and musicians. So it's going to be a good time. It's in Hilo. I mean, there's nothing you can do out here that's not going to be a good time. So come.
100%. Yeah,
Yes.
that's amazing. Well, I need to check into the plane tickets. So, yeah.
Yes.
Well, Pauline, thank you for telling us your story and inspiring those entrepreneurs out there to just do it. Just quit asking yourself if you should and just do it because you'll learn from it. You might fall, but you'll pick yourself up and you'll learn. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
thank
Thank
you
you.
for telling your story. All of your socials and all that will be included in the show notes. And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And to all you genius entrepreneurs out there, if you're not inspired to just step out and put your idea into the world after this conversation, I don't know what to do anymore because this is pretty inspirational. So thank you for that story. And I hope you, as our listeners, start thinking about your genius a little bit differently. Step into your purpose, step out and get your idea into the marketplace, and the world will be better for it. We will see you next time.